Ivar the Boneless, the ruthless Viking warrior who defied limits. Step into the harsh and dramatic world of the 9th century, the age of the Vikings. Here, brutal warriors, daring seafarers, and legendary sagas ruled the collective imagination of Scandinavia and beyond. Among the unforgettable figures etched in history is Ivar the Boneless, a Viking leader whose name inspires both dread and fascination. His life story is a paradox. A brilliant tactician in warfare, yet burdened by supposed physical limitations. A loyal son who burned with the flame of vengeance, and a figure whose historical reality is entangled with myth. In this journey through the life of Ivar the Boneless, we peel back both legend and reality to understand the man behind the saga and his undeniable role in shaping Viking history. The story of Ivar begins within the legendary family of Ragnar Lothbrok, one of the most celebrated figures in Norse sagas. While some accounts suggest Ragnar was a historical figure, his life is cloaked in legend, and his sons, including Ivar, inherit this same mythical aura. Ivar's late 8th century birth is surrounded by uncertainty, yet he emerges prominently in both sagas and records of the Viking Age. Perhaps the greatest mystery tied to Ivar is his enigmatic nickname, the Boneless. Historians and scholars have long debated its meaning. One theory posits a genetic condition like osteogenesis imperfecta or brittle bone disease, explaining potential skeletal fragility. Another theory suggests hypermobility, making his limbs unusually flexible in combat. Others argue the name derived from metaphor, a nickname commemorating his adaptability in battle or his lack of physical fear. Despite this supposed handicap, Ivar grew into a figure of immense power and influence, carving his own legend into Scandinavian folklore. His intellect and cunning were his greatest strengths, allowing him to overcome the societal expectations of strength and athleticism in a warrior culture. As the son of Ragnar, Ivar was born into a legacy of dominance and ambition. Alongside his brothers, Bjorn Ironside, Sigurd Snake in the Eye, and others, he was raised to value glory on the battlefield. However, Ivar would make his mark not just with brute force, but with a mind capable of weaving strategy and carefully calculated acts of war. Much of Ivar's rise stems from a pivotal moment, the capture and death of his father, Ragnar, by the hand of King Ella of Northumbria. According to the sagas, Ivar and his brothers watched as King Ella subjected Ragnar to a brutal execution, casting him into a pit filled with venomous snakes. Ragnar's death sparked an unrelenting flame of vengeance in his sons, particularly Ivar. Angry and determined, these sons would unite to form one of the most feared forces in Viking history, the Great Heathen Army. It was Ivar's intellect, not his brawn, that became the driving force behind the Great Heathen Army. This force, assembled in 865, was a coalition of Viking warriors from Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, a rare example of unity in a culture often divided by individual ambitions. Their target was England, a land fractured into individual kingdoms that presented both opportunity and danger. Ivar's leadership was crucial to their early success. The Great Heathen Army was more than a chaotic invasion. It was a calculated campaign underpinned by Ivar's ability to assess the weaknesses of Anglo-Saxon rulers. His strategy relied not only on overwhelming force, but also on psychological warfare, using terror to undermine resistance and secure submission. One of Ivar's earliest victories was the capture of York in 866, a strategic stronghold for the Anglo-Saxons. The battle demonstrated his unparalleled ability to orchestrate large-scale invasions, combining Viking ferocity with precision and planning. His triumphs not only solidified his leadership, but also sent a chilling message to other kingdoms: the Vikings were here to stay. Ivar's unique leadership style distinguished him from other Viking warlords. Time and again, he demonstrated an almost uncanny ability to outthink his opponents. His strategies often focused on exploiting his enemies' weaknesses, whether through battlefield tactics, sieges, or deception. This strategic brilliance earned him a fearsome reputation, even among his own people. However, his rule was not without brutality. The Viking concept of honour entwined with vengeance fueled some of Ivar's most notorious actions. After capturing King Ella, Ivar is said to have executed him through the legendary and gruesome Blood Eagle, a ritualistic execution method intended to terrify foes and avenge his father's death. While some historians debate the plausibility of this act, its inclusion in Ivar's legend highlights the calculated cruelty he wielded to secure both loyalty and fear. Ivar's leadership also relied on his ability to read the political landscape. He recognized that brute force alone could not guarantee Viking dominance in a foreign land. As such, he often negotiated or established alliances when strategic advantages could be gained. This blend of diplomacy, ruthlessness, and battlefield mastery set Ivar apart as a leader unlike any other. Between 865 and 870, Ivar and the Great Heathen Army waged relentless campaigns across England, leaving scars that would take generations to heal. Ivar led successful raids against the kingdoms of East Anglia and Northumbria, further destabilising the political landscape of the time. His actions had far-reaching consequences, not just for the kingdoms he invaded, but also for the shape of medieval Europe itself. The Viking incursions under Ivar paved the way for Viking settlements in England, particularly the Danelaw, a region governed by Scandinavian law. This blending of cultures resulted in shifts in language, law, and even religious practices that resonate in the historical fabric of England today. Ivar the Boneless is remembered not just as a conqueror, but as a complex and contradictory figure. While his military successes solidified his dominance during his lifetime, the legend that grew around him transformed him into both a hero and a villain in the Viking sagas. The sagas often depict him as a cold and calculating figure, using his cunning to outmaneuver larger, stronger opponents. His reputation for brutality, however, casts a shadow over his legacy, leaving many to wonder whether he was simply a product of his violent era or a leader who embraced terror as a means to an end. Ivar's death is shrouded in mystery. Some sources suggest he died of natural causes, while others claim he perished on the battlefield. In either case, his absence marked the end of an era for the Great Heathen Army, which splintered after his passing. To understand Ivar, we must also explore the cultural and societal forces that shaped the Vikings. The 9th century saw Vikings seeking wealth, land, and glory, driven by expansionist ambitions and a deep-seated belief in fate and honour. Physical strength was revered, making Ivar's story all the more exceptional as he overcame perceived physical limitations to lead through sheer intellect and determination. The Viking Age was also a time of immense transition, with Scandinavian influence spreading to far-flung regions, including the British Isles, Ireland, and even parts of Russia. Ivar and his campaigns were emblematic of this larger movement, fueling the spread of Viking culture far beyond Scandinavia and forever altering the course of European history. Today, Ivar the Boneless has re-emerged in popular culture, capturing the imagination of modern audiences through films, TV series, and books. In shows like Vikings, Ivar is portrayed as a complex and volatile character, blending historical accounts with dramatic fiction. However, these portrayals often blur the lines between history and mythology, leaving viewers to wonder how much of Ivar's story can be taken as fact. The name Boneless alone serves as a reminder of how myth and history often intermingle to create iconic yet enigmatic figures. Ivar the Boneless remains one of the most fascinating and paradoxical figures of the Viking Age. His story is a testament to the power of intellect over adversity, demonstrating how a man who may have been deemed unfit for battle became one of the most feared leaders of his time. Through his calculated strategies, ruthless conquests, and unrelenting pursuit of vengeance, Ivar carved a legacy that continues to inspire awe and debate centuries later. Whether seen as a genius strategist, a brutal warlord, or a victim of fate, his story is a vivid chapter in the saga of Viking history, a chapter that will continue to captivate the imagination of history enthusiasts for generations to come.